What are some common dating profile mistakes that women are making? I'm here with my good friend, Jermaine Jones, and we're going to talk all about what you can do to make sure that your dating profile on the apps are the most, I don't know, what's a good word, Jermaine? How would you describe
Mm,
optimizing your dating profile?
I would say that they're a great snapshot of you, snapshot of who you are.
Awesome. So that's what we're going to talk about today in this interview. But how about you start us off by letting us know who you are, what you do, and what led you down this path?
Sure, sure. If you're not familiar with my work, my name is Jermaine Jones. I'm a life and mindset coach. We all know that encompasses relationships, it encompasses wellness, all of the places where women tend to have a pivot. And I really specialize with women that are over 35. Most of my clients are in their 40s and they're navigating some sort of life disruption. So I help them kind of figure that out and so they can move forward.
That is awesome. And we want to talk specifically today about dating apps because it's a whole different world out there, right? For women who are pivoting and are going back on the dating scene. Like, I'm curious to know, like, what are your thoughts? What are some of your general thoughts on these dating apps? Have they made dating life better or worse? What do you think?
I think it's all about perspective. On one hand, they're super helpful at widening the net, so to speak, when you're looking for your person to make your happily ever after with. I think there's two sides of it. If you don't have the skills or you haven't done the work on yourself, it can be like, if you're one of those people who are like, oh my God, dating apps, they're so crazy, they're hard to navigate. That's really what we're going to talk about today. They can help you, but they can also be a negative if you don't really know how to move through them.
Absolutely. I did a video on dating apps a little while ago on my channel, and I think it's the video that got the most thumbs down. So I come from a world where when I met my first husband, there weren't really, well, there were definitely no dating apps. I think it had kind of started with the dating sites. So
Mm-hmm.
I come from that world where it's like, I would not meet men unless like it was the weekend and I was going to the bar with the girlfriends, or, when I was out of university, I was meeting like new people through school, or, like, sure, you do hobbies, but then it's always with the same people and stuff. So like to me, which who hasn't really experienced the apps, I'm like, okay, well, on the good side, it's like if on a Tuesday morning before, my morning coffee, I want to see who's out there, like I can see, I don't have to wait till Saturday night, and put all that effort into going out with my girlfriend. So
That's
anyway,
absolutely right. And if you're introverted and maybe you're not the type that would just walk up to a guy, or I would even say if the women that where a man smiles at you and kind of shoots those arrows, you always look away and you're feeling some type of wrong. I'm doing something wrong if I smile back at him, then, apps might be a good place for you to start. Of course, there's work to be done on being able to embrace the receiving side of that. But the apps have definitely given you another tool to meet more people, especially for the busy professionals and people that really have a hectic schedule. It's a way to get started and finally, have some options.
absolutely. But then obviously it comes with a whole slew of issue with catfishing and all sorts of stuff, right? I don't think
Yes.
we're going to get in that nitty gritty detail, but it kind of leads me into the question about, and you kind of alluded to it here, in terms of the mindset, what's a good mindset to adopt going into using dating apps? Because, yeah, there are a lot of challenges. It can be discouraging. It can be overwhelming too, right? That's something I hear women say all the time. It is like, it can be so much work because that net is cast so far and wide. So, what's a good, healthy mindset that really increases your potential of being successful on these dating apps? Because I have a few friends who have met their husbands on these
Mhm.
dating apps. So I know
Yes,
it's possible, right?
yes, yes. It's definitely possible. You have friends, I have family members that have met their happily ever after and their husband or their wife on a dating app. I think the mindset has to really be there is some work that you're going to do. There's always personal development work on yourself that makes navigating the app so much better. Having clarity on who you are, what you need, what type of person you're actually looking for, but also really understanding that you're not for everybody and everybody's not for you. Not viewing every person on the app, even every match, let's just say, as your person, really learning to be detached from the outcome and just really focusing on developing relationship skills, practicing, just communicating back and forth and just seeing what comes of each, interaction. But I would say that's one of the biggest mindset things is if you know ahead of time what you want in a partner, it becomes easier to recognize when it's a no or not even an option. And really, I hate to throw this in there, but not viewing the apps as a rebound tool. So
Mm.
when I have clients or friends that have just come out of a relationship or just broken up and haven't taken any time to themselves, the apps really aren't where they want to start.
That's a really good point. And I love how you talked about how the dating apps too are a good place to practice your skills. That is something I am so big on, practicing the relationship skills. And like you're saying, it's not necessarily every person that you spot on there or that you match with on there, but it's always like a good opportunity to really practice and hone your skills. And once you really have a clear idea of what you're looking for, and this can actually help you narrow that down too. So it can be, and that's another upside to that. And
Definitely.
you talked about family and friends who have also found their happily ever after. Let's
Mhm.
talk. I'm all about the happily ever after.
Yes, you
So are
are.
you, right?
You really help people find their happily ever after.
Yeah. So before we get into the specifics of the dating profile, how do you see these dating apps as relating to your happily ever after?
I think the apps will help you by a lot of women have patterns and behaviors that they need to unlearn or relearn. And having to interact with people on the app really lets you get to know yourself a lot better too. And in terms of your happily ever after, you're going to be navigating those types of situations with your person.
Yeah.
Conflict is going to come up. You're going to have to learn how to communicate. So, meeting people in the app, especially when everyone is not your person, it is a really good way to start becoming comfortable with your femininity and how you can respond in challenging situations, how to create space for another person. So the app is giving you a pool of people to practice with as well.
Absolutely. And I love how you said that, some of these situations will come up like later on, right? Even when you're like talking to people on
Mhm.
the apps and, it takes a while to respond, or whatnot. Like sometimes that happens with my husband. I'm like, what the heck's taking him so
That's
long, right?
right.
And the more you practice from the start, the more you can handle those situations in
Mhm.
an emotionally powerful way later on as you're building that lasting love together with your partner. So that is totally,
Absolutely. I think you're
totally.
going to run into situations that are real life. They might be on a smaller scale since they're in the app, but meeting someone, speaking with them, communicating, deciphering what they mean, asking important questions, just holding space for another person that also has wants and desires. So on the app, real life, happily ever after, these skills are never going to go away. They're always going to be useful. So the apps are a great way to get to use them.
Absolutely. So let's jump into the juicy part. Let's talk specifically about the dating profile on these apps. Like, what makes a really good, impactful dating profile? And why is it important?
So, this is a question I get asked a lot with some of my clients. And having been on the dating apps, I can see these things. Of course, on a woman's side, you only see the men. But even men that I've talked to, they see some of the same things. So, a few things you can really focus on are your photos, the energy that is being conveyed in your profile, really making your bio and the information there. I said this previously, but a snapshot of who you are, kind of not boring, letting them see what is it like to experience you. Clarity, reading your profile and really understanding what you're looking for. You know, if you're looking for a casual date or you're looking to get married again, those things should be evident in the information that you're giving the person. And I would say, most importantly, the uniqueness. And I don't mean in a way of trying to look better than the next woman, but the things about you that make you you, and they could even be traits that you have hidden or you don't want to share, or, you know, maybe people think you're weird or quirky or funny. If you're a funny person, maybe adding a little wit to your profile because you're obviously your match is going to appreciate that trait about you if they are truly your match. So, really, let's just talk about that in a, quick way. Your photos. We're the days of using filters and these grainy images, bathroom selfies. These are things that are out there. I've come across them. Very much a no. You want that person, if they were to do a video chat with you or you end up going on a date with them, they're not really surprised by what you look like. There's one more tip I have to give you, and you would think it would be very obvious, but let's make sure the photos are actually us. I know that sounds like, a given, but it really is not. I do have clients and have heard stories from men where the woman actually used her friend's photo or just a photo of a woman she thought looked better than her that would somehow be more enticing. And the reasoning behind that was, maybe if he gets to know my personality first, then I can show him what I want to, what I actually look like. We don't want to start out this way. We really don't. And I love telling women it doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are, whatever you think you look like that is not going to work for someone. Let me tell you that it is, because this is the whole idea, right? You want to find someone that sees you as you are and they're okay with it. They love it. They just think that you're amazing. You don't really want to have to come from behind in a situation like that where you got to show up to the date and then explain. When the man told me the story, I was just horrified because his back was turned. Talk about catfishing. His back was turned. So when she walked up and he turned around, he kind of was like, "Oh, who is this?" But she said his name, she said her name, and he was just horrified. And because it was an obvious no for him,
Mm.
it's not rude or disrespectful or anything like that. But she proceeded to say that that was what her hope was, that you would just meet her, love her personality. And that's great. We do want people to meet us and love our personality and who we are. But men are very visual. The photo of you is the first thing that they're going to see before they decide if they want to get to know your personality. That's just the world we live in. So clear photos, recent photos. This is
Yeah.
very important. I mean, you would think these aren't things that you need to tell people, but your gorgeous cheerleading picture from high school, you know, we don't want to use that unless there's a caption that's just you're doing a historical run. Some people will do pictures over time, and then the last picture is their most recent one. I'm not a fan of that.
Okay.
But I am a fan of even rotating your pictures out. How you look today, how you look 6 months ago, even a year is okay because some people put the dates on their photos, but not 20 and 30 years ago when inside you view that was like the best time of your life, the way you looked. We don't want that. We don't want to live in the past. We want people to
Yeah.
see how we are now. We really don't want to use all professional pictures. If you're a business person and you have a headshot, that's great for one of your pictures. We don't want all of them to be professional shots because it tends to give the person on the other side a very ingenuine feel, like maybe this isn't a real person. It just, when we get professional pictures done, they're edited, they're like, we look so good. It's okay to show them like, hey, this was me grabbing a coffee or something like this. So photos that include a hobby of yours, or if you have a dog or a pet, those are great. I think people want to see you in your life, how you are today. So that's really important. The energy, as you're reading someone's profile, you do get a feel for their personality. If they're kind of boring, if they're upbeat, if they're manic, even. I would say one of the worst things I have come across, I call them bleeding profiles.
Hmm.
So you are wounded. You are not really in a space to be dating or on the app. You've just broken up, just gone through a divorce. That's an exception, I'm going to say, because I do have clients that have gone through a divorce and it was a long time in the making. So they were actually ready to start dating. I don't mean like, okay, the divorce is finalized. Now you have to wait a significant amount of time. I mean, emotionally, you're still kind of reeling from a breakup. That's not a good place to be in because the profile reads as if they are wounded. It has a list, for example. I want a person who doesn't do this, doesn't do this. These are
Hmm.
real things people write out, even men. I want a woman that's never going to cheat. I want a woman that's always going to be loyal. I don't want a woman that wants her, cosmetic surgery. I mean, they're basically telling you the problems they had of their last relationship. They're screaming them in the profile. And a couple of things wrong with this. Besides the most obvious, it makes it look like you were not emotionally ready for a relationship. It also looks like you haven't really done your own healing and you can be taken advantage of even by the type of people that are looking for that. A lot of narcissistic people looking for people that wear their heart on their sleeve and they're hurting. And so they will have an avenue to move in and be the savior, so to speak. So
And
you
that's
really
so interesting because it's almost like they're trying to avoid heartbreak again by listing out all the things they don't want, but
also
the
facilitate.
paradox is that you're attracting it. So that
You
is
are.
super. I just wanted to highlight that. That's so important.
Yeah. And I know some of us, everybody wants love. That's one thing I will say. And it is hard when you are heartbroken and you're wounded from the loss of a love or the separation from a companion. That is hard. And the fact that you still feel those emotions is the biggest sign that you are not ready. You're not in a healthy place to be available for someone, and you're going to project a lot of things onto them and require them to fill holes that are not meant for
Mm.
them to fill in an unhealthy way. So I think I was talking about the energy.
Yeah.
So your photos, your energy, curiosity. There's something about your profile that is intriguing to a partner. They want to know more. So you also don't want a profile that's like a novel from the day I was born to yesterday. We don't want that either. We want to leave something, some substance for conversation. Let them ask questions because that's what happens when somebody is intrigued and they want to know more about you. They're going to swipe right. They're going to send you a message, and this leaves room for conversation. So I would say the biggest thing is the photos. That's what I've seen. And then the last thing I'll say is what I mentioned, the uniqueness. There are things, that are particular to you that you might have even been hiding that really make you special. They will be magnetic to your match, and you need to highlight them. And a lot of people aren't used to that, especially if you are introverted, but you got to let yourself shine.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that point back about the uniqueness because you mentioned it earlier. And I wanted to come back to it because that's a big part of the work I do with clients too, because that's not only going to help you in terms of magnetizing that man, but even for your own energy and your own, addressing any insecurities, because there's going to be a pool of people out there for you to fine, but there's also a pool of people out there also looking like you, right? That you might view as competition. And the less you're aware of your own uniqueness and what you bring to the relationship, the more that can mess with your mindset, like we were talking about earlier, right? Like the mindset portion of this. And even in terms of how you show up with these potential men, right? If that's kind of always in the back of your mind, you're not sure what is making you you and
Mhm.
special, that can also just impact the vibe you're letting off and just throw off the energy. So
And I
that's
think it's
great.
really important to really not even keep your mind or let your mind wander to the competition or what else is out there. I really don't feel like there is competition for you. And what I mean
Yeah.
by that is nobody is you. No one's profile is going to read exactly like you. Every partner that potential mate that you come across, we know that they're not all really going to be a mate. So, what you're looking for is a pool of potential people, just like the people on the opposite side are looking for potentials. So, from there, they're talking to you, they're seeing if they want to go further. It's like little baby steps with people. So, your confidence will build as you highlight, and you can go back in and make adjustments. I tell people to rotate their pictures out. When you take a new picture that you really like, you can go in and change it out and put that one in. That way, they're always recent, they're always you, and you don't really have doubt that that person that swiped, they saw you. They know what you look like as long as you were, authentic and true with what you're putting out there. But over time, your confidence will build. That's the really neat thing about it. You're getting practice, you're learning about yourself, you're interacting with people, and you're not invested initially. That is the plus of online dating too. You don't know who these people are. So there is essentially no reason for you to be like, well, I don't want to say. This is great practice if you're someone who holds back a lot. You want to say
Mm,
things and you find yourself not saying them. Be who you are so that from the jump, from the beginning, this person is they're getting an accurate picture of you. And that makes the chemistry better. That gives clarity to both people. Maybe you say something they don't like. We're not really worried about it. Honestly, that's good. And the reason it's good is because you get to weed out already. If you meet a person who really doesn't like a woman who laughs a lot, or, you have a certain opinion about pets or whatever, say the things. There's no harm in that. If you meet someone who's like, well, I don't like her saying that, this is great. This is great. It's like losing the tribe that's not for you,
yeah.
and you get closer to your match.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Those are amazing tips. I was just looking at the other questions and I feel like we got through a lot of them. And I know we're focusing on the profile today, but I thought maybe we could touch a little bit on communicating through these apps, kind of like a little bit of the next step, because that's another tricky area too. Not just, okay, you have your profile, it's awesome, you're matching with people, you're having conversations. But then in terms of kind of navigating those conversations, what are some do's and don'ts in that area?
Let's talk about a few of the most common ones, which, what do I say? You
Yeah.
know, what if he says this or that? I would say initially, especially on, I don't know if some of your watchers have heard about Bumble, but Bumble is one of the apps where the woman does have to initiate. So I have some friends and some clients that their initiation is just a wave because they don't feel comfortable like leading the conversation first, which
Mm,
that's okay. The I think the app wanted women to feel more empowered. And so this man may like you, but until you wave to him or say hello, he can't really do much. He can see that you all have matched, but until you say, hello, John, or whoever he is, he
yeah.
can't message you. So that's intimidating for a lot of women. Some
Yeah.
women love that. Um, Some tend to be more old fashioned and would rather the man say something first.
Yeah.
But I will say one great tip on communicating is you have read their profile, hopefully. A lot of people are just looking at photos and swiping. You want to read the profile all the way through. These profiles talk about political affiliation, they talk about pets, they talk about does this person drink or smoke or do drugs or are they curvy? Do they have some pounds to? You want to read all the things. Are they divorced? Separated? Separated is a big one for me because that was always, this is just me, that was always a no for me
Hmm.
because it implied baggage. It implied that there was some things that weren't yet closed and ready to move into that space. You've got to be careful. Sometimes there are married people in there trying to communicate with you, and you're like, oh my gosh. But before I get the woman that's like, oh my gosh, see, this is why I don't like the apps. These are things that are in real life too, in person. I can tell
Good
you,
point.
having been out in the, dating world and out in the world and on dates with individuals, there are people that are married that will try you. And when I say try you, I mean they will test to see if you're fine being a side piece. Maybe you don't really know what you want. Maybe you're a person they can take advantage of because you haven't done the work. You don't have the clarity. You don't have the communication skills. There's no boundaries, all of that. And some of that is evident in communication. So I say read the profile when you say hello, or maybe that person says hello first, I like to sometimes compliment them or ask them a question about something in the profile. There should be, hopefully, some commonality that you found, which is why maybe you swiped right on them. Maybe saying, I noticed.
Hmm.
Maybe I noticed this, and maybe ask them a question about it. Really, the messaging is about keeping it light. We're not diving in. It shouldn't feel like an interrogation. I've had it before where it felt like an interrogation to me because the person hasn't done the mindset work. They're so focused and they have tunnel vision about what they don't want that even that is portrayed in the way they communicate with you. So I would say reading the profile, noticing something, and when they say hello, of course, saying hello back. I really encourage women to step into their femininity and relax. Maybe turn on some music, whatever it is that relaxes you before you even go into the apps. If you've been at work all day and you're stressed out, don't hop on the app and start messaging with the man
Yeah.
because you may not think it, but that stuff comes through, that energy is conveyed. You might be shorter, you might be frustrated, you might just have less patience. So I would say starting there, reading the profile, waiting for them to respond, also noticing if there's a delay. Now,
Mm.
people don't sit on the app all day, but that's not the same as someone asking you a question, you responding, and then maybe replying 3 or 4 days later.
Right.
People get busy, yes, but they're also telling you something about their intention, their sense of urgency, their availability, even. And there are many people out here that are just talking to everybody. We're
Yeah.
saying they have to be totally committed to you because you just met, but just relax, just say hello, figure out pieces of their profile that interest you that maybe could be a subject of conversation. I don't encourage long, drawn out novels.
Yeah.
I also don't encourage stacking of questions. You ask a
Mhm.
question, you didn't get a response, you ask another question. Um, we're not going to talk about attachment styles today, but some of that is dictating the angst that you feel because they haven't responded and you're so attached to the outcome. It goes back to what I was saying. Be very detached, especially initially because everybody's out here trying to find love, right? Some people are willing to do say whatever. So be exact ask your question, pique curiosity, just be a real person. I will say one of the things that I let people know that, and I've listed this on the checklist we'll talk about later, but there is a red flag energy about extended texting. Most intentional men are moving with the goal of swiping right, talking to you, messaging a little bit, and getting on the phone. And the reason you want to get on the phone is because you want to be able to put a voice with a face, make sure they're a real person, get to know them a little bit to see if you even want to go on a date with them. And when you have people that are just on the app for ego. This is a real thing. There are people that want to see if how many times people are swiping right on them. They want to have somebody to talk to. You would be surprised, or maybe not, how many men just want someone to talk to.
Yeah.
They're not actually looking for a happily ever after. They are wasters. I call them tire kickers. You can weed them out immediately because they are not going to want to get on the phone with you. They're not going to want to go on a date with you. They're going to want to text and text and text and take up all your time. And a quick nip in the bud on that is, hey, I really enjoy talking to you, but I get a bit bored with messaging. I'd love to hear your voice so I can match it with a face. What do you think?
That is great wording. I love that you shared
Perfect
that.
line to say because a couple of things are going to happen. If a man is texting and texting and texting because he's nervous and he really does
Mm,
talk to you, but he's afraid that he's going to say, how about we get on the phone? And you're going to be like, this is too soon. He doesn't want to scare you off. He will immediately be like, oh, okay, sure. He will immediately want to do that because he doesn't want to bore you. And if you say, I get a bit bored with texting or messaging, they'll understand and they'll be glad because you gave them the window to move
yeah.
forward. If not, they will disappear. They will unmatch with you. They will just be gone. And that is what you want. They're not on there to really find a happily ever after, a long term relationship like you are. So you can be like, yay.
That's such a great feminine energy communication tip. I'm so glad you shared with the viewers that exact wording. And another thing that really struck me that I wanted to highlight too was when you suggested a way to initiate a conversation is to include like a compliment. Like
Mhm.
men thrive and they value admiration. So when you can tap into something that really resonates with a man, you're going to like pique his interest, like the high quality man that you want to date. So that was
Mhm.
another really powerful one I wanted to bring back up so that women can
And
take note of that.
I know you work with women on that, and I do as well. And it becomes easier because you start to notice that you're talking to a man who really does want to be loved also. He loves the words of affirmation. So when we're complimenting them from something we noticed in their profile, we're not being cheesy or ridiculously off the wall. We're just saying, I noticed that shirt you had on and blue is a great color on you or something like this.
Yeah,
It does
something, sorry, it's
sound,
not just, hey, you look hot. Like, that's not what we're
yeah,
talking about here.
yes. Oh, those are the
Clarify.
cheesiest ones. Oh, girl, you're so sexy. Or, oh gosh, these are, they give thirst vibes. Okay.
Hmm.
If you're not familiar with thirst vibes, we see them all over the interwebs. We see photos of women that particular photo is chosen because we know it's going to have men's tongues lolling on the counter. She's going to get lots of likes. Her DMs are full of men that are, they got a lot on their mind. Let's just say. We don't really want that. I meant to mention that too when I was talking about the photos.
Right.
If you have a picture in a swimsuit on vacation, okay. But thirst photos where you were particularly focused on highlighting all of your assets only, especially when all photos look like this.
Yeah.
The reason this can be, girl, if you're hot, I am all about it. I love helping women get their
Show it
sex
off, but
right. Show it off. However, if all of your pictures look like this, or this is the main focus or initial focus, you will draw men that is their only focus. Let me repeat that. If that is your main focus, you will draw men that is their only focus. They are drawn to talk to you because they don't even need your head in the photo. We don't want that.
no.
We want the men that are drawn to you and they can see a full body shot, definitely, but it doesn't mean they can see all the details. We want a little mystery, okay? Photos, energy, mystery, curiosity, uniqueness. These are all things that make a man go, oh. And some of the apps will show you when a man is repeatedly looking at your profile. You can
Wow.
see it says this person is looking repeatedly, which this can be good. It can be good. We don't know why they're looking repeatedly, but I'm not a fan of the thirst photos, but
I'm
just
glad you brought up the word mystery too, because also I think that's another very important trait to keep for yourself. Like I know when you're meeting men, you kind of want to tell them everything. You want them to know everything about you and hopefully
Mhm.
fall in love with all that. But there is an element of mystery that we want to keep so that the man continues chasing you. And it kind of sounds old fashioned. And I think I see that a lot, or I see that the idea came up in my mind when you were talking about like long texts or long messages too. Like keep them short also for the mystery aspect, right? I mean, obviously you want them to know about you, but also like showing interest in them a lot and then kind of keeping it mysterious a little bit about you will like, give them a reason also to keep coming back also. So
Right.
again, there's a fine line there, obviously, but I love the word mystery. So
There is a fine line. It's kind of like we women are a recipe. We are a recipe. Your profile is a recipe. We want to pique his curiosity, but we
yeah,
are not unveiling all the things. And this goes back to your femininity. When you are working with a coach, when you're working with Muriel or myself, we talk about these things because they spill into all aspects of your life, your dating life, your wellness, your business, all of these things. And men love femininity.
mhm.
So when you are showing everything, just picture yourself walking down the street naked. There's a certain type of man that is not going to be drawn to you. Does he,
Yeah,
is he going to look at your body parts and maybe get turned on? Okay. But the quality, high value man, he's not going to want that woman that's walking down the street like that, exposing everything. So your profile, your messaging, if you're writing long, drawn out books, you could be exposing everything. And we want to kind of slowly delve that out, right? That is part of it. The mystery, not where we're playing games. We're not playing
no,
hard to get. We are just intriguing them and letting them naturally hunt. And if you don't understand that, you need to work with Muriel or myself, and you will understand that
yeah,
this is something men naturally need to do. They need to feel like they worked for it, they earned it, they have pride in making it theirs. And when
yeah.
you're like, this is everything, take it, they're kind of like, ooh, you know, if you bring a big hunk of meat to a lion, he might eat it. He might not finish it though. But the one he went out and had to go for the kill, I'm sorry if you love animals. I'm an animal fanatic, so I love lions. That's why I use that example. The hunt is really part of it, and same thing for the male species. It's not about game playing, but
No,
I like that old-fashioned tradition of mystery. I mean, men want to have a reason to go after it. And
yeah,
you being mysterious is just giving them pieces of you, but not the whole thing. Because honestly, the whole thing is unveiled in a process over dating, gathering data, reaching that happily ever after. It's a beautiful dance that unfolds. So you don't want to just plop it on the table.
no, exactly. No, exactly. Listen, this was an amazing chat as always, and I want to make
It
sure you
was.
have time to let the women know where they can find you. What do you have going on? And I know you mentioned a checklist, so tell us
Yes.
about that.
Yes. So you can always find me on Instagram, Jermaine W. Jones. You can message me there. I'll put a link below to where you can find a free checklist that talks about the online dating profile. It goes into a little bit more information that we didn't have time for today. And I also created a guide for women that are dating over 40. And it's very extensive. It's so comprehensive. I think you guys will love it. It'll be available for purchase, but we'll include a link below
Yeah.
and you guys can find what you need there. If you want to talk with me further about creating a dating strategy for yourself, or even just getting to know yourself better and how do you build that confidence and get that sexy back to be okay with entering a room where people are and a man smiles at you and you don't feel cringe or want to run away. That is definitely something we can work on because there are certain skills we want to work on before we get to the happily ever after. Muriel is amazing at helping people that are looking for their happily ever after or they're already in it. But I love to remind women that the dating process actually continues in your happily ever after. And when you
Oh,
get married,
yeah.
you still have date night. You still have reasons to date your partner and keep it spicy. And your partner will love that.
So true. So true. Thank you so much. Like I said, it's always a pleasure, and hopefully you will come back.
I will. This was amazing. I think this is one of those topics a lot of women talk about with their girlfriends, but I'm so glad we could put it out in the open. And if you guys have any questions or want to know how you can work with me, how you can get better at this online dating thing, then just reach out.
Awesome. Thank you.
You are so welcome.